Alright, well, I'm parked up, so I can probably go and get inside because, hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and it is currently raining. In sunny Milton Keynes, once again, I have taken the trip over to WargamesWorkshop because we've got another BoltAction tournament. I came up a couple months ago, and when I posted the video it seemed fairly popular, so I thought, well, why not see if I can do a better job? But while I get indoors and dry myself off, I'm going to send you back to myself earlier today when I looked at the army I'm bringing.
And here they are, 1000 points of Kazakh Soviet Union using the generic platoon selector. Now, as this is a slightly larger points limit than before, I have the option to take some bigger and more powerful stuff, but that I can also take some more interesting units as well. Strangely enough, while I did make some changes, a lot of this is the same as before, kind of my favourite units, I guess. The Free Rifle Squad and Officer obviously are the same as their required units, but the BA-64, Sniper Team, 6 Strong Submachine Gun Squad and the ZiS-3 are all identical options as before. The Light Machine Gun Squad are swapped for an NKVD squad, but they're basically identical. They're both 11 strong regular. This time there's only 1 light machine gun instead of 2, so I guess that's the only difference. The unit that actually changed the most was the tank for the tank riders. The squad itself increased to 8 models, but the tank was replaced from a small light tank to a medium T-34, and that gives it a bit more punch. For additional units, which is more interesting, I chose a T-20 artillery tow. As that was sorely absent from last time, I can now move my ZiS-3 around. I also took a Bad Squiddo mortar team and this Ampulamets from DeweyCat. Having not used either of these models before, it should be fun to try them out. Now, you'll notice that I don't have the model for my officer, and I did select one on the list, but I forgot to bring the model. Thankfully, your average BoltAction player is nice and helpful, so I got to borrow this Scott Rifleman to stand in for my lieutenant. And so I arrived at WargamesWorkshop Milton Keynes for this tournament, which is helped out or run by the Outriders MK. I really should work out exactly how that functions, but they're a local hobby group that keeps games like this running. We'll all be playing 3 games, and the victory points will be counted to rank everyone at the end. My first game was actually against the same Japanese player I played against in the last tournament, and I got a shot of their starfish this time because that's pretty cool. I threw my infantry up the middle and my T-34 up the left-hand flank, protected by this rocky terrain, and whilst it did take out their armoured car in turn 2, most of my opponent's force deployed at the other end of the board, and so they wasted half the game getting over there. I towed the ZiS-3 into a sensible position, and the Ampulamets and the NKVD traded shots versus various units my opponent moved around. That Ampulamets is fun, but short-ranged for a weapon that can't move and shoot. However, on the other side of the board, things were not looking so good. My submachine gun squad and sniper got taken out quickly, and my rifle squad totally failed to damage their tank with the Molotovs. Turn 4 almost felt like an extra turn 1, in that we were repositioning to fight lengthways down the board, with lots of dangerous units still around on both sides. I did get a lucky shot off from, I think it was my mortar, to take out their tank. I don't actually remember if it was the mortar, I think it was. But the game ended in a big old scuffle in the middle, a total bloodbath reducing both sides to a handful of models. I had scored 9 units wiped out, and my opponent 8. However, my opponent took out my borrowed officer, granting a bonus 1 point, and so a perfect draw. And my opponent was nice as always, and a good laugh throughout. The second game was against a veteran Yank force, and seeing as I'm working on my own veteran US Army, I was happy to take notes. Unfortunately, I forgot to take as much video for this one, but we got stuck into the middle in the beginning of the game. I was hoping to break into my opponent's table quarter, and they were hoping to blunt my attack by holding ground. As we were both fairly new players, I've still played less than 20 games, we did have to check several rules, and I really need to read through the rulebook again at some point to make sure I'm playing properly. Well, they seemed to be doing well enough, and surely they did blunt my attack, wiping out my centre field, including one excellent use of an ambush order. But we both scored points on table quarters and units wiped out, and once again we came in at a perfect draw, 10 victory points each. 4 of them are table quarter points scored by my T-34 and the tank riders. The last game, unfortunately back on the desert board. Can I please get to use my snow models on the snowboard, please, just once? The left flank for me here, this little alleyway, death alley between my tank riders and several of my opponent's British units. This was a tough fight, up close and personal, and both sides stubbornly refusing to let up. The middle of the field had a lot more movement, with my opponent's Churchill Aviary causing so much damage. That thing is dangerous. By this point you might realise that taking these swooping videos of the table, which might look nice, but certainly doesn't help me explain what was going on, so I think I may need to rethink how I do this type of video. But to stop complaining for 0.3 of a nanosecond, we came out of this with another draw, one side objective each, and the middle completely void of life. My opponent scored one more victory point on wiped out units, but that was not enough to secure a victory, as you need a difference of more than 2. But I did have a really fun time. It was a good game with much laughing and even cheering my opponent's successes and groaning when they rolled poorly. And in fact, all 3 games were a lot of fun with very nice opponents. And so, when it's time to leave, we have to play some sad music.
Yeah, sad music, because I'm now getting kicked out. He's locking up the door, and the rain hasn't let off. It was kind of nice and dry during the first and second game, but I'll just have to go home now.
But go home I did, and with far more stuff than I came with, because these events at WargamesWorkshop are very generous with the prizes. There were prizes for first, second, third, and a wooden spoon for last. Now I came right in the middle of the pack, with all 3 of my games being a draw, so nothing there for me. But there was a raffle for the Blood Red Skies starter box, and I won that, which is pretty amazing as the entry price was only a tenner. And this is kind of fun, as I had a little talk with Andy Chambers recently at Warlord Games Open Day, as he was the designer of this game, or one of the main designers. Now I have a chance to play it for myself. Once the bigger prizes were out, everyone's name was put into a hat and drawn one at a time, until every single person got to choose at least one prize. Now for this, I got Colonel Koenig, modelled on the German sniper from Enemy at the Gates, which is a special Warlord Games model given only to local tournaments like this one for use as prizes. The paint here I didn't win, I actually bought that, and these last ones, the Spanish Civil War 15mm models. Not a prize, but someone who bought them by mistake and were handing them out to anyone who would take them. I took the bait, and I think that will make for an interesting video someday. But of course, if you guys want to post in the comments for any specific things that you'd like to see first, I'll likely make all of them eventually, but if something's popular I'll do that first. And if you have any ideas on how to improve these kind of tournament recap videos, I don't have a camera crew and I don't have a lot of time, particularly given that these are larger games and we only have a certain amount of time to play them, but I want to make sure I have enough photographs or video to actually present them in an interesting way. But with all that done, thanks once again to WargamesWorkshop, the Outriders MK, and all of you lot for watching the video. I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and I will see you next time.